Yeah. Demon Killer Mafia.
Hey.
You know how we do this is University City,
Yeah.
Texas, representing Greater Randolph area. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Life Speaks. I am your host, Guicho Breach, Luis Perez, a.k.a. Guicho Breach. If you know, the Demon Killer. And I'm here with my co-host,
Casey Case.
Casey.
Your favorite Tennessee representative.
Yeah, Tennessee representative. And before we get started, we want to give a shout out to all our sponsors.
All of them. Thank you so much.
Yes. And starting with the first one is...
510
Okay, go ahead.
Architecture and Design.
510 Architecture and Design.
Holler at our boy Daniel Martinez. He's got your back like chiropractic. And Hernandez Drywall. Holler at them for all your drywall needs. They'll hook you up. Tell them we sent you.
Yep. And then also want to give a shout out to the Choosing Hope Foundation.
Yes,
and
doing big things out there.
All the work that the Choosing Hope Foundation does, everything we do. If you know, which if you've been watching the podcast, you know that it is founded primarily, but not entirely, started with a prison ministry, then into parole ministry.
Choosing Hope worked for me.
Yeah, working with homeless people, battered women, addiction recovery, alcoholism, everything that entails recovery and working with folks, helping them get reestablished back into society as, good, law-abiding, producing citizens. And so I want to give a shout out to the foundation, everyone who's donated to the foundation.
Thank you.
We are grateful, and it goes a long way. Please continue to donate and give.
Yes.
If you want to be a sponsor, feel free to let us know you want to be a sponsor. And also want to give a shout out to the church, our fellowship, Christian Fellowship Ministries, the Potter's House Christian Church, GRA, the Greater Randolph area.
Yes.
And so...
and shout out to the fans.
Yep, and all the fans that are out there
checking us out.
Yep, all those.
Share us.
We have a live audience today, and it's gonna be a good time tonight. And so I just want to give just thank you and for bearing with us through this hiatus we had. We had conferences and different things happening, and so but we're back in full effect. And so tonight, today we have a very, very special guest. We have Mrs. Mari Perez, and she's going to be sharing her testimony and her life experiences. So we just want to welcome her. Welcome to the show, Mari.
Hi, thank you for having me.
A pleasure to have you. And so we know one of the things that, have you seen some of the podcast episodes?
Yes.
You see how kind of they how the format is and stuff. One of the things that I like to do is I want you to kind of like, as much as you can, go back as far as you can in the history of your life and just kind of start detailing, as far as you remember, how life was like and in the best way you can describe it. And then from there, I'll go ahead and just kind of guide you through the interview and stuff. So what do you remember life being like as far back as you can remember?
I remember being, obviously young, and for a little while, I feel like I was just a kid. Everything was fine. Like I was maybe 5 and being a little 5-year-old, having fun with my sisters and stuff. Everything was kind of peaceful, pretty normal.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really a long period before everything kind of went bad for me. I felt like I barely have any memories of everything being good before.
So you're a child. You're growing up. Where were you living at this time?
I'm born and raised in Corpus.
Okay, so you're in Corpus Christi. You're a little child. You're growing up. Life seems fine, and then all of a sudden, things began to shift, change. What were they subtle shifts, or was it like from one day to the next, everything went haywire? And what were those changes?
I think in the beginning it was subtle, because I was a regular kid, and then I started doing a bunch of chores around the house, and not even like normal chores. I know parents, give your kids chores, and you have responsibilities. What would you do? I have a house of 5, so I have me, my 2 sisters, and my mom and dad, and I would do the laundry, for all 5 of us. Just the whole clothes, sweeping, mopping, dishes, cleaning the room. So basically the whole house.
And you were the only one doing all that?
Yeah.
Nobody was helping you?
It was just
crazy.
me.
Now,
Yeah.
what was the dynamic of life in this time as, you find yourself, how old are you at this time now?
I would say probably I started like maybe 8-ish.
Eight-ish. So you're 8 years old. You find yourself, you're a kid, you're a child. All of a sudden, things start shifting. Here it is. You're being compounded with all kinds of responsibility. What are your feelings like? How are you reasoning this? Is it like, oh, this is just normal, or like, oh, why is this happening, or what's going on, or what was your logic at that point?
It was just normal life. I didn't think anything different because that's just what they were telling me to do. So that's life. That's what you're supposed to do.
Just being obedient?
Just being obedient, doing what I'm supposed to do at school. I'm having friends, doing whatever. And you don't talk about chores at school. You're with your friends. So I'm just thinking, this is life. Like, gotta do chores. I hate doing chores. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, my parents tell me to do something. Gotta do it.
Did you ever try to make a stand or anything? Like, I ain't doing that.
No.
Oh.
And I mean, and the thing about it too is like, we're talking about chores, and it seems kind of what's the word that I'm looking for? Kind of like frivolous, I don't think there's any kid that likes to do chores, but there was something different about this dynamic. It was you were doing chores for everybody. Was there any kind of explanation as to like, why all the responsibility of the chores fell upon you?
No, just maybe I guess because I was the oldest.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
it.
Okay. And so as you're working in this dynamic, you're living in this dynamic of life, you're living at home with your mom and your dad, or who are you living with?
So growing up, to me, it was my dad.
Okay.
So my dad.
Okay. But it wasn't your real dad.
Yeah, it wasn't my real dad. Later on, I found out he wasn't even my dad at all. He was my stepdad.
Okay.
Oh, wow. You didn't even know?
I didn't even know. So he was my dad. Literally every day of my life was, that's dad. And then all of a sudden, they're like, that's not your dad. That's your stepdad.
How did that come about? I mean, in the midst, how old were you, and how did that come about? They're just like, whoa, wait up, this is not my dad. What's going on?
So I was 10 years old. I remember just one time, being in my room playing in my room. And I just hear a loud scream from my mom in her room, just like, Richie, which is my stepdad's name. And then he just comes running from the living room over there into her room. They slam the door, and they're just in there for a while. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. And then a couple hours later, he comes out, and then my mom calls me in her room. She closes all the doors, and I'm like, okay. And then she's telling me, I have to tell you something. Richie's not your dad. He's your stepdad. You have a dad, and his name's Camilo. And then she just kind of tells me all this stuff. And the only reason she told me was because my dad had went to my grandpa's house with all these cops and everything demanding to see me.
Okay, so up to that point, you had no clue, and it was just dropped on you all of a sudden. Like, hey, just the record, this is not your dad. You have an actual dad, and that's his name. Whatever.
How did you take that?
I was 10, so I was just like, what? Like, I remember my mom said, like, his name's Camilo, and I was like, you dated someone named Camilo? Like, literally, that was my response, and I'm just a 10-year-old, like, oh, okay, I have a dad.
So you're 10 years old at this time.
10.
Now, so I'm trying to try to find a way to see the transition here, because, you found out your dad is Camilo, and then in your notes, your interview notes, you have there, my stepdad started physical abuse. What was it? The fact that that Camilo came into the picture, that the abuse started, or how did that correlate into it?
It slowly happened because I was doing all the chores, and then if I'm just a kid, so I don't really want to do them. So I'd start slowly, I would leave the clothes in the washer and dryer for so long. So the clothes in the dryer would be wrinkled, the clothes in the washer would start, having that smell and just stuff like that, to where I'd start getting punished. And so he'd start hitting me, and those were the excuses, to where it slowly just began where it's like he just was mad at me. I'd get hit, or, it just slowly started that way. And then so that was happening. And then when I was 10, I found out about my dad.
Do you think that's due to resentment for Camilo?
I think it was. I didn't understand that till later on in my life, like way later. But during the time, I didn't know.
What was resentment? What was resentment, Casey?
Like the abuse that the stepdad was giving her.
Oh, okay.
Because I wasn't his own kid, kind of thing.
Oh, okay. You think that was the case?
I think that was the case, because my sisters really didn't.
Almost like, so let me understand. You're trying to say that the reason why was because he didn't consider you his child, or because you weren't his child?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Or
same thing, kind of.
Okay.
his dislike of Camilo.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, because he knew about him?
Something about that. Maybe just because I wasn't his kid, or maybe because he didn't like Camilo, so he didn't like me, which I
Okay.
don't know.
So then the physical abuse started, and this is just strictly physical. It's just beatings, I guess whatever physical abuse entails,
Yeah.
I guess spankings, overt spankings, beatings, whatever it is that physical abuse entails.
Did you ever try to fight back?
Oh no, I was way too scared.
And how old are you at this
That's
time?
horrible.
I would say like 8 to 9ish, because it was
Aw.
already happening before I found out Camilo was my dad.
Okay. And what are you thinking at this time? Is it just normal? Is it, so the reason why I ask is because, like I have to discipline my kids, and my kids are like I'll spank them and they'll be like, you broke my arm. And it's like, that's not what happened. You know what I mean? But in a sense of abuse, what are you thinking as you're enduring this?
Just that I need to, I guess, stop doing what I'm doing to get hit. So just kind of like, this is normal, so I need to stop doing what I'm doing to stop, so I don't get hit no more, kind of thing.
Okay. Okay. And then you cut your hair like a boy's, or?
So that was one of my punishments. I remember in middle school. I got a letter. Well, I never saw this letter. My mom told me, "Oh, you're late for school, so you know how they send you the letters, like you're gonna have to go to court or whatever."
Truancy and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I was in middle school. My mom said she got one of those letters, and I better stop being late to class, because I was just tardy for class or whatever. And one time, I don't remember what happened, but a teacher was talking to me in the hall real quick, and then the bell rang, and so we were both like, "Oh," and I was like, "Crap!" Like they already told me one more time, "You're late." Like, you're in trouble. So I was like, oh no, and so I was hoping they wouldn't find out. But my stepdad found out, and as a punishment, he just kind of grabbed my hair and just started chopping. And so it was like up to my ears, sort of, and like uneven, and that was my punishment. And my hair's kind of wavy, curly, so being that short, it was like even, it was like an afro, yeah. They would take away my hoodies, so I wouldn't use the hood to cover it. And my punishment was to go to school chopped, uneven, and just looking like that.
And this was over truancy?
Truancy.
Just being tardy to a class.
Okay.
Because I don't think I got a letter saying that I had to go to court, because nothing ever came of it. No one told me anything. I'm pretty sure like a principal would talk to you or something. Nothing of this sort ever happened. I was just late to one class.
And how did you process that? I mean, just from the time that it was cut to when later when it grew out, or how would you process life at that moment?
So for middle school, I was probably like 7th grade. So I had already been getting abuse for a while, and I knew that it was not normal at the time.
Yeah.
I remember seeing this like video like on the news or something, on how a dad spanked a daughter with a belt, and I was like, I get it way worse than that. And they're on the news, like they're going to court over that. I was like, I get it worse than that.
Oh wow,
so
okay.
That's when I kind of knew it was abuse. And
Was there like physical marks and stuff?
oh, I would have the belt like welts and black and blue on me, like everywhere, and like I would just have bruises and everything.
Did you ever raise not awareness, but did you ever say something about it? Like, hey, like.
Not to my parents. I told some of my close friends, because sometimes they would see like days I'd be down, or like they'd see the bruises, and I'd be like, yeah, like they hit me, or so they kind of knew. But us being in middle school, we didn't really know what to do about it. I just kind of went to them, and they were like somewhat trying to comfort me as best as they could.
Now, how is this? I mean, how is this affecting your? Me as a pastor, I deal with people on the tail end of everything they've been through, everything they've experienced, everything they've endured. I see the manifestation of years of things that they've been through and stuff, and I'm your pastor. I know the things that you go through and deal with, but what is changing in your emotional state from that child that you were, as it's progressing further and forward and further? What's shifting in you?
I think at the beginning, because like there was very little that I remember ever being not, normal, I guess. So I think because it slowly happened in the beginning to slowly doing all the chores to slowly getting hit, it was more normal. It was more at towards middle school when it was constant that I was like I'm tired of this. I'm so tired of doing all the chores. I'm so tired of just getting hit for, to me, what seemed like no reason, at the time. And I actually started trying to kill myself.
So if you could, okay, so
How old were you?
before we get to that part, because that's kind of way down on the list over here. So before you get to that part right there, what emotion began to manifest that took you to that place ultimately?
Just depressed. Like I was just
Depression.
depressed.
Just feeling nobody
done.
loves me. I don't feel loved, or I don't feel accepted.
Self-hate.
I don't think I ever knew what love was because I don't think I ever got it.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know about
I mean, knowing what you know love is now, right? Love is, as God denotes it in Scripture, is sacrifice and benevolence. We speak about that all the time, right? Sacrifice, benevolence is the action of true love. You never experienced that dynamic of sacrifice and benevolence, growing up. Was more of a what would you have described it as if it wasn't love?
I feel like at that time I didn't even have emotions. Like the only thing I ever felt was sad or mad because I was getting hit and I wanted it to stop.
Pain.
Just kind of like mad, sad, and the pain. That's I don't think I ever felt any.
Your mom let all this happen? She didn't ever, or was she in on it too?
No, I think she was just more of like. When I remember my mom is she'd be at work, she'd come home, be tired, and kind of just be in her room or watching TV.
Okay.
So even their marriage was. The marriage between your mom, which I mean, I know you can't speak much on it because I mean, it wasn't your life. That's a whole different thing. But I mean, it almost seems like even their marriage was kind of like, like a distant thing. It wasn't even a close thing.
Yeah, it'd be like that. Or I know sometimes me and my sisters would fight, like fist fight and everything, and we'd see them. And then times where my mom would be like, "Here, grab the phone, like call the cops," and like my two sisters are just screaming their lungs off, crying, and I'm just like, they're kind of like, stop screaming, like stop crying, because I don't think I had emotions, and I was just like, dude, just stop crying, like stop screaming.
And in the midst of this, then Camilo, your real dad, tries to come back into your life, and I think I remember seeing a picture of you as was it 13-year-old or 12-year-old?
The first time he came into my life, when I found out about him, I was 10.
Okay, so I remember seeing that picture, and Camilo showed me that picture where he's like, we're trying to reconnect, and you were very shut down, very, y'all were I guess you were going to therapy or something like that, and you were kind of like, I don't want nothing to do with this guy.
The first time when I first met him, I was more open. Like, I was like, oh, like, I have a dad, and I remember, too, one of my thoughts was, like, I get more Christmas presents, I get more birthday presents, because I was 10, I was just
coming up.
And so I had to go to therapy because, I don't know if it's because they knew I didn't know at all, or what, but I just know I had to go to therapy, and I think I didn't know, but separately he did too, and then one of the sessions is when we all met.
Wow.
And then slowly me and him would go and have, like, I guess our little father-daughter dates, and then someone would tag along to kind of supervise, and so he'd always take me, like, to the movies or Peter Piper, and we'd get to hang out with each other.
Did you enjoy that?
Oh, yeah, I loved it. It was fun.
That's cool.
And so then at this point, as Camilo's trying to come back into your life, y'all are doing things together, y'all are going to therapy. Is this helping build your relationship, or is it not?
Yeah, it was helping. Everything was going good. I mean, we were getting along. I loved him. I thought it was the best thing ever. I think at one point I even started calling him Dad. I think. I don't remember. I think. But all of a sudden it was like coming up on, and it would only be because he was living in San Antonio, so we'd see every other Saturday, and for like an hour or two. And it was coming up on Easter, and so my mom was telling me my cousins were coming, and at the time they lived all over like San Antonio, Houston, and they never got to see him. So I was like, let me call my dad and tell him not this weekend. So I called him and I said, Dad, can you not come this weekend? Like, can we do it next weekend, or whatever you can? And he was like, yeah, we'll do that. I'll see you next time. And I was like, okay, thank you, like, whatever. And then I never got a call from him ever again.
Well,
He
and
never
so,
came.
and maybe I'm kind of like my timeline's a little bit, but he wasn't in the church yet, right?
No, he was in the church.
Oh,
He
this was years
still,
before that.
Yeah. At the
Okay.
time, I didn't even know like about stuff, but at the
Okay.
time, he was still doing drugs and stuff.
Okay.
I didn't know, but
Okay.
Yeah.
And so,
Was you ever open with him, like telling him what's going on in your life about the abuse or anything?
not about the abuse. That's something. No, I didn't tell him that.
so then where in this time frame when Camilo is coming back into your life and you're receiving the help that you need, did the sexual abuse start?
That happened.
Or how do, and I mean, try to not detail, but I'm saying speak on how the transition happened from, chores,
So
physical abuse, and all of a sudden now it's turning into a sexual thing.
So that was when the first time, on that Easter weekend or whatever. After that, I didn't have a call, or he didn't see me at all, and I kind of forgot about him. And so then, like months later, my mom was like, "Hey, Camilo's calling. He wants to talk to you." And I was like me and my own self, I was like, "No." I was like, "It's been this long. I kind of forgot about him. I don't want to see him. Like, no, I don't want to talk to him." So I didn't have to see him or talk to him in a very long time. And then when I was 13, I don't know what exactly he did, but he did it again, like to where I think he probably brought the cops to my grandpa's house again. And so I had to go back to court again. I mean, therapy again, and so did he, to get that communication together again.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, when I was going, both my stepdad and my mom were in my head like, he doesn't love you. You have a dad already. Like, you don't need him. So in my head, I'm like, yeah, like I have a dad. Because at the time, I was still calling my stepdad dad. Like, my whole life, he was dad to me. I never once called him stepdad or anything. So they were telling me, oh, we were going to change your name. His last name was Gonzalez. Everyone's last name was Gonzalez, but me, I was Perez. So they were like, you're Gonzalez. We're going to change your last name and this and that. Especially so right before the therapy, they would tell me stuff in my head. And so I would think it, like, there would be my own thoughts. And I would tell the therapist, like, I don't want to see him. I don't want nothing to do with him.
This is Camilo, because they were putting all this stuff in your head.
Yeah, about Camilo. And then, so I would tell the therapist, and whenever I was done, they'd be like, what happened? What happened? And I'd tell them, oh, I said this and I said that. And they'd be like, good job. Let's go get you ice cream. So they would reward me for saying bad stuff about my dad.
Oh, man.
And
did that make you want to keep saying bad stuff so you can get the good stuff?
yeah. Yeah, that really persuaded me. And so then I got the chance to one time say it in front of my dad's face, like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to do nothing with you. I don't want to see you. I have a dad. Get out of my life, whatever. And so
I remember Camilo telling me about that, where he was kind of like, what the heck? Like, what happened? You know what I mean? Like, he was just kind of like dumbfounded by the whole situation and stuff. And then that's where he was in the church at that time.
I don't believe that time either.
How old were you when you first came to the church?
16.
Oh,
so that's when I was 13.
Okay, because that's when I remember. That's when when he was in the church and he was like, dude, I got to get my daughter back. And he was like, I was like, let's fast and pray. And we fasted and prayed for I don't know how long. And then it was like God just moved powerfully. And then you were here and we were like, and I remember you came in the church and everybody was like, Mari. And you were like, what the heck? How do these people know me?
Yeah.
But so where does the sexual abuse start?
Right after that. Like, right after the therapy was over and all that, and I told Camilo to get out of my life, it kind of happened shortly after that. I don't know what was the first incident or how, but I just remember it happened right after that.
Okay. And how long did that go on for?
It went on for a long while, like probably until when I was 16 and I finally kind of came out about everything.
So from 13?
Wow.
Yeah, 13.
And now, and I mean,
that's a long
you don't
time.
have to answer this question if you don't want to, but I'm going to ask it. Was this just sexual abuse or was it rape?
It was just sexual abuse.
Okay.
There was one time I know he tried.
Okay.
But I don't know what happened. Something in the laundry room, and it was kind of close to his bedroom because he called me into like his bedroom, and he was gonna try and like every time he would try and like touch me and do stuff, I would get like scared and like locked, like I couldn't move because I was so scared of him.
Yeah.
And something just fell.
Uh-huh.
And like he got super scared and he got up and he ran to go check and he closed the door and I was just there like freaking out. But that was the only time he tried.
And what I mean, what are you thinking? We can, we see the end product, right? As we deal with people when, come in the church and need help, whatever. But what's happening inside of you mentally, in your heart as you're going? How are you processing this?
I don't think I did at all. I just was like, this is what's happening. I just really don't think I had emotions at all. I was just scared and pain. Like,
so you just kind of like, and I've heard, unfortunately in my ministry, I've dealt a lot with victims of sexual abuse and rape and things of that sort. And one of the comments that is very frequent in dealing with this stuff is a lot of women that I deal with would say, I just removed myself.
yes.
In the midst of what's happening, I just removed myself. Is that how you would describe it? Like it was just like I went to this place and
Yeah.
let happen whatever happened, and then I came back when it was done.
Pretty much, yeah. That's actually a perfect description.
Okay. And then did you ever consider at that moment whistleblowing? Like, no, I got to tell somebody, like, this ain't right. Like this.
I know sometimes I would think about it, but then I would think about, well, what happened to my sisters? They would
Okay.
like I would think, oh, we'd probably be put in the foster system, and then we'd be split apart, and then also if I was also scared that if I did tell, they wouldn't believe me, and I would have to go back home.
Yeah.
And then I'd get beat because he was already physically beating me. So I was like, I don't want to.
So you didn't
chance
want
that
to risk.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how did you deal with the day-to-day interaction of life through this?
When I was in middle school, I did have a lot of friends because, elementary is middle school. So I had all my friends, and I was able to at least be myself at school, I felt like. And if I did have something troubling me, I told them. But right in the middle of middle school, we moved. Corpus, it's like one side or the other. So we moved all the way to the other side. And they told me at high school, you're going to that side of high school. And so when I did go over there, I didn't know anyone at all. And so I was completely alone. So that's when I felt everything for me was going downhill. Because at least at middle school, I would have my friends and I'd get that escape. But once I was in high school, it was just being by myself, really. And I just...
When you were in middle school, did you like going to school?
oh, yeah.
Instead of being at home?
Yeah, I'd rather
You
have
would
been
rather
at school.
be at school?
So so what are you doing? You, as you're going through this stuff, the sexual abuse, are you hardening yourself? Are you internally breaking down? Are you doing both? How did you manage through this?
Yeah, I just had a lot of walls up. I didn't really trust anyone. Eventually I had one friend. I think freshman year I was hanging out with her, but I didn't really consider her a friend. I didn't care. And then sophomore year, that's when I was like, okay, she's my friend. It took me a long time to trust someone. And then I was just like really depressed and really down.
So because of the abuse, the sexual abuse, your perspective, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, your perspective on people changed?
Yes.
So it was like, if this is my family and they do this to me, you just imagine how these people are.
Yeah.
And so you just kept everybody at arm's length, or was kind of like cynicism, like, whatever, they ain't no real friends, or what was your outlook of stuff like that?
I think I just hated everyone too.
Okay.
Yeah, that too, but I hated everyone too, and I didn't want no one next to me. I didn't care about no one.
How did the killing yourself, the suicidal feelings and emotions come into play, and what transpired from there?
Oh, let's see. Because I was just so done of doing all the laundry. I was so done of just getting beat for no reason that I would try to kill myself. But, so I would take pills. I remember taking 50 ibuprofens. One day that didn't work. So the next day I took 30, and the next day I took 20. And like nothing happened. And I remember, the next day after that, after I took the 20, my friend came to school and she was sad because her cousin took like 10 ibuprofens and she's in the hospital. Like, there's no hope for her, kind of thing. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I took almost like 100 within 3 days. And like, I was like, why can't I kill myself? And I tried to take all these pills because we had like a medicine cabinet. I took like 2 of everything, took it all. I remember taking, I think it was Benadryl because like they make you sleepy, right? And I was like, oh, if I take a lot, they'll make me sleep forever, But I tried so many different ways and nothing ever Nothing ever happened.
It was just, you just tried to cure yourself through pills, or did you try anything else?
Yeah, I tried pills because everything else, I remember trying to get a knife and like trying to just like stab myself, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do
Okay.
anything, so it was mostly pills.
And so
good thing,
you're trying to kill yourself. It's not happening. It's not working out. And then you cry out to God. In what way did you cry out to God?
I remember it was 4 days after my 16th birthday. Long story short, my mom was mad at me because I wasn't listening to her when my tia was over. So to her, it was embarrassing that I'm not listening to her. And so when my tia left, she tried to like hit me and slap me around, but I was like, I'm not scared of my mom. So I was like, whatever, like leave me alone, get away. And so when my stepdad came home, she pulled him into the room and they closed the door and they were talking. And then whenever she came out, he called me in and he was mad. And I was like, oh, like it's over. And I knew it. Like I knew I was in trouble. And he called me in and he would always hit me with the belt. And sometimes, or he would always hit me with my pants on. And sometimes when I got a little older, he would tell me to take my pants off because it was like protection to me.
Mm-hmm.
But that one time he told me to take my pants and my underwear off. And he just went off, like off on me. And when it was done, I wanted to cry because he wouldn't, if you cried, you know, you get it worse. So I wanted to cry. So I took a shower to kind of cover it. And I was just in the shower crying like God, take me away. And like take me away. I don't want to be here. Like I'm done. And I was just crying and like I didn't know who God was. Like everyone knows God. Like, oh, he's in heaven, there's a hell, that kind of thing. So that's what I knew. And I was just like crying, like, God, just take me away. Like I can't even kill myself. I can't do this. Like I just want to be done. And I meant kill me. Like I'm trying to kill myself. I can't do it. Like take me. I just want to be gone. And so I'm just crying and crying. And then I was done. Like, thank you. I was done and turned the water off. And I kind of just sat there a little bit. And then all of a sudden, like my dad came in my head, like Camilo. Like I just heard Camilo, and I was like, "Oh, my dad!" Like, and then I started thinking, I wonder how different my life would be if I had my dad.
Praise God.
You know, and then so that was 4 days after my birthday, and usually that's when winter break happens. And so that next day I went to school, and it was a Thursday, and I was just depressed. Like I was just down. I wasn't me. I wasn't talking. And my best friend that I mentioned earlier, I kind of opened up about her about that, but about the physical abuse. And it was during lunch, and she was like, let's go walk around. Like, because she wanted to talk to me, and there was other people there, and she wanted to talk to me alone. And she was like, what happened? And I was like, he hit me. I told him this and that. And she was like, oh, like, I'm sorry. Like, it's going to be okay. And the sexual abuse was something I was going to take to my grave. Like, it was nothing. I was never going to let anyone know about that. And for some reason, I was like, there's more. Like, I just can't.
Like it just came out of you.
Yeah, and she was like, I think I know. And I was like, no. Like, I don't think. And she's like, no, I think I know. And she was like, but tell me. Like, and I told her. And, like, told her, like, he sexually abuses me. And she was like, I knew it. She's like, you're not going home. She's like, you're going to come to my house. We're going to call CPS, and you're not going home. And so I was like, okay. Like, I'm ready. Like, I'm done. And I remember she skipped that next period to be with me so we can be in gym together because I was crying and everything. And he had missed and went low and kind of hit my leg. So at gym, she saw it, and she was like she saw, I guess it already welted up and bruised. And she was like, oh, my gosh, you know. And at that time, a lot of people were skipping their classes and just going to the gym. And so they saw her, and she got caught, and they sent her to the counselor. And she was like, I want to talk to the principal. Like, I want to talk to no, they were going to send her to ISS. And she was like, I want to talk to the principal. Like, you can't send me. I was there for a good reason. And they were like, yeah. Like, everyone says that. And she was like, no, they're going to take me to the principal. I need to save my friend. And they were like, okay, whatever. So she went to the principal or a counselor. I'm not sure who, but she told them everything. And so then they called me out of gym, and I was like, oh, crap. Like I got her in trouble, and, you know. But once I went, they put me in a room, and there was, like, all the counselors, because they were all women. There was the vice principal. There was the principal, and they were all women. And they were like, your friend told us what happened. And they were like, can we see? And I was like, can you see? Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, we know that he hit you. Like, can we see? So I kind of had to show him my butt. So I had to show him, and usually I always look because I always know it's bruised and like the welts and everything. That time I just didn't look, but once I showed them, I just heard gasps from everyone, and they were like, like, oh my gosh, and they're like, okay, like you can pull them back up or whatever. And then they called the cops right away, and the cops came, CPS came, and it just kind of all happened from there. Like CPS took me from school, and kind of where
was your mom aware of any of this, or
she knew about the physical abuse? I mean, she was the one that that time told him to kind of. I don't know if she said like hit him or whatever, but I knew she knew the outcome, you know. And so she knew about the physical abuse, and whenever CPS took me, they had to take me to the hospital to get checked and everything, because she told them about the sexual abuse as well. And that's when my mom found out, because I guess they called him and told him I'm not coming home from school, and then they wouldn't tell them where I was either. It wasn't until midnight when all the exams and everything were done, and that my mom came, and they let her talk to me, and she was like, what happened? Like, what happened? And I told her, and she was like kind of crying and saying she was sorry, and she couldn't, like, she was just.
So she was just oblivious to what was going on. They both had their separate lives, and she was not aware of anything like that. She just was living her own life and stuff.
Yeah, she didn't know.
And so then what transpired after that, after the test, and CPS gets involved and all that?
So they ordered to take me and my sisters out. So my tia, luckily, kind of stepped up. And, I mean, she has 3 kids of her own, and she offered to take me and my 2 sisters. So there was 8 of us living in her house, And we were there for 3 months. Within that time, my mom was divorcing my stepdad. So that was happening. I don't know really. I know there was other stuff that happened, but no one... Because I was still 16.
She divorcing him because of the abuse and all that?
Because of the abuse. And she didn't know about the sexual abuse. So that's, I think, one of the main reasons why she was, because she knew about the physical abuse.
Okay.
So for 3 months, we were living with my tia until we moved back with my mom. And then we would still have to do, like, CPS visits and checks.
And then you got in contact with Camilo, and then you came to church?
Yes. So when I was living with my tia, I remembered my dad. So I was I remember stories where my tia was the only one that would, when my mom didn't want me to see Camilo when I was a baby, my tia was the only one that kind of would sneak me to see him. So when we were living with her, I was like, can you help me find him? Like, I want to talk to him. I want to see him. So she told my mom, and my mom.
Is this your mom's sibling?
Yes, my mom's sister.
Okay.
And my mom kind of didn't have an option at the time, so they went to look for him for me. So. Shortly after I told him that, I got in contact with my dad. So,
and I've asked this question. I actually asked this question to Lulu, and did the sexual abuse and the having to do with that, did that produce promiscuity in you?
Yes.
Like, did it lead you into a path that you would have not gone otherwise?
I don't really think so. I think it happened because once I met my dad and everything, I came to the church. It wasn't until I had left the church again that's when it happened. That's when it all started, because it wasn't in between there at all.
Okay. So then you reached out to Camilo, you found him, you came to church. You put on here that you came to church and rebelled and left. Yeah. And at that point, you just went off the deep end.
Yeah, I don't think I went too deep, because some people go deep, but that's when I kind of just try to find love in boys. They weren't men, so I try to find like love in boys, and I was just at the time just smoking weed, and so to me that was about I've ever been. So yeah. Because
I remember back then, I remember when you came to church. I remember it so clearly because we saw the progression of when was that one time that. Remember, he went to go meet you over there, but I went with him, but no one knew I was there. I was sitting in the back of the Starbucks. Yeah. Where was that in the timeline?
Whenever I wanted to meet my dad.
That was right here when you wanted to meet him.
Yeah.
You had no idea who this guy was.
And you came to church.
Yeah, no idea who
You
Pastor
know
was.
who?
But yeah, you didn't see me there. I was there, but
Yeah.
you didn't see me. That was before you came to church.
That was before I came to church.
Okay, yeah, because me and Camilo, there was this thing going on where we thought Camilo was being set up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. My mom, because I told my mom I wanted to see him. And so I remember she told me that she kept telling him not to bring no one, to come alone.
Yeah,
and I was
like, yeah.
why? I was like, I just want to see him.
And that's what made us suspicious, because she was like, "You better be alone. You better be alone." We were like, and Camilo was like, we knew what Camilo had come out of, and so when she was so adamant about him being alone, I was like, "Whoa, hold up, man. This is a setup." And so to Camilo, I said, "Nah, bro, I'm going over there with you, bro." And so he dropped me off at the Starbucks, like on the side of the Starbucks. I walked in, went and sat at the very back, and then he came back around at the time y'all were supposed to meet. And he was like, "Hey, dude, if anything happens, bro," I was like, "Man, I got you, bro." I was like, "We're gonna ride or die. We're gonna die together, man." You know what I'm saying? And it was you and your mom that walked in and stuff, and we were like, "Okay, cool." But no one knew I was there.
Yeah.
And then after that, we just took off. We came back to San Antonio and stuff. And so you're out in the world now. What's going on in your life? You came to church and you rebelled. I mean, so tell me. I mean, I guess I would like to know, when you hear that first time in church.
Time to come clean.
No. I mean, like, how are you processing this whole Jesus thing? I mean,
when I first came, I mean, like you said, everyone knew me, and I was like, whoa. I was like, what's going on? I felt famous. I was like, yeah. I was like, okay. And so, just my dad that was one of his rules. If you be in his house, you got to come to church. So I was like, okay, I'll go to church. Like, at the time, at my mom's house, we were all getting in fights. My sisters and my mom, we were fist fighting. It was, cops were being called. And
dang, you was fighting with your mom? Like,
yeah. I didn't want to fight, but I fought, yeah.
Dang, like, actually, like, bloop, bloop, bloop,
All
bloop,
four
bloop.
of us, we were just running around in circles fighting each other. We'd fight them, and then
so
we'd
that's
fight
just like a
them.
brawl.
And yeah, it was bad. So anything to get away from them. So when living with my dad, I was like, I'll go to church to get away from that. So I came to church, going to the services, I was listening, and I drew close, and this is what I wanted. I was like, yeah, like Jesus. When it came to church, I believe that when I was crying out, it was God that put my dad in my head, especially when I found out y'all were praying and fasting. And I was like, that's God. Like, I cry out to God, and I think of my dad. And then shortly after I'm coming, like, I really did believe it was God. And so even though I left, that was the one thing I knew, like, God was real because of that. Like, nothing in my life, no matter what I go through, I know God's real because of that,
So how are you processing life out in the world after being in church, hearing the preaching, knowing about salvation, knowing God's real, but now you're back in the world? How are you processing that? I mean, we always tell people, like, you come to church, you get saved, then you backslide. Like, living in the world is not going to be the same, because you already know too much. Like, God's already touched you. You've already been affected by the power of God. Like, it's not going to be the same. Well, what was your experience in that time when you left and said, well, I'm going to go back into the world?
I think the reason for me leaving was because towards the end of when I was still here, I was like, I'm still 16, and I go to high school. Everyone is 16. They're smoking. They're doing this. And I was like, I'm still a kid. Like, yes, Jesus is real, and, like, this is what I want to do. But I was like, I want to have fun, too. I want to go out. Like, people go to the clubs. Like, I want to do that. Like, I'm young. I'm not going to have much time. I want to do that. And I was like, eventually I'll come back.
So your reasoning was, and I mean, and I've heard this before, but it's like you could really reason in your mind saying, I'm still a kid.
Yeah.
Like, you could see that you were just still a kid.
Yeah, especially because my life, like, when I was living and being abused and everything, they wouldn't let me out the house. Like, I wouldn't leave. I would leave to go to school, but that's it. Like, they would go out to eat at restaurants or this and that, and I was stuck at the house doing nothing. Okay. So especially I didn't have nothing before I wanted that life. So when I was out in the world, like, I got tattoos, and the whole time I was like, like God says, you're not supposed to. Like, I know it's a sin, and smoking it's a sin and all that, but I was like, I'll get saved later. So, like, I felt that conviction, but I was like, it still wasn't enough for me not to do it. I still wanted to have fun.
And so then you come back to Jesus, and here you are today.
Praise God.
How does coming to church left, and then how did you get drawn back?
It was actually kind of, I don't know if it was weird, but I had my own apartment, and I was smoking, and whenever I would smoke, it was always like, you're high, like, you're having fun, and then all of a sudden it was like I had like a bad trip, and it was just weird, and it was like like I was freaking out and I was like hyperventilating and stuff, and I couldn't like keep it together. And then I just remember like everything was calm, and then it was like, what are you doing? Like, I didn't call you for this. I told you, like, I had when I first was saved, I had felt the call that I was supposed to be a missionary's wife. And so I remember, like, God was like, what are you doing? Like, I called you. You know what I called you for. You know, you're supposed to. And it was like I saw it. Like, I saw, like, a boat and, like, the waters. And it was like, you're supposed to be overseas. And, like, it was like he showed me all the great things I was supposed to do.
So in the little bit of time that you were here the first time, God impressed all these things upon your life and your heart.
Yeah.
And so here you are in the world, and God's reminding you of this stuff.
An
Yeah.
epiphany.
In such a small period of time, like God impressed all that upon you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
And I remember I was high, and then I just kind of, like, went to sleep after that. And then when I woke up, I was like, whoa. Like, I was like, no, I was high. Like, I'm tripping. Like, no. And then I smoked again, and then it was another bad trip.
Dang.
And it was just like there were people like figures, like shadows, and they were like taunting me and
The
stuff.
famous shadow people.
Yeah.
Was that the last time you smoked?
I did it one more time, and then that last time I was like, okay, God called me. Like, I'm done smoking.
Yeah, I'm
like,
done with this.
I've never had bad trips, and all of a sudden
Yeah,
it's happening. So I was like, I'm going to church. I'm going to church.
and so here you are now. You're like, I'm coming back to church.
Praise God.
How was the journey back?
I went to the Corpus Church. It didn't feel like I kind of left, like, pick up where I left off.
Mhm.
It was different because it was a different church, but it was still like I'm trying to serve God. Like, I started reading, started praying and stuff.
Is it
and
one of the Potter's houses?
Yeah. No,
is?
it's the door,
It's the door.
but it was
okay.
still like the
Same
Potter's House
fellowship, yeah.
Same fellowship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same fellowship.
But I mean, so what was the journey back? I mean, was it like all out for Jesus, or was it like, man, like it's kind of hard to catch traction now that I'm trying to come back? Or
I was all out, and
Okay.
then until I think I was there. I don't know if it was a couple months or a year, but I remember in October there was the trunk or treat fellowship, and then I don't know why I just was like, after that, I didn't go. I stopped going, and then I would be like, right now there's a church service. It could be Wednesday, and they're like, oh, church is starting. I was like, they're probably doing song service right now. And then later I'd be like, okay, they're at the service. You know, and it was
Dang,
still.
so you'd just be thinking about it. And
yeah,
stuff.
like I'd still be thinking about it. And
it was still on your heart.
it was still on my heart. So
That's
I was like, you know
awesome.
what, I just got to go back. So in December, I just went back.
Awesome.
that's to the church over there.
Yeah,
Praise
to the church
God.
over there.
How did you end up over here?
So I think I went another year to the church, and then it was just like it was church, but it wasn't my church. It wasn't the way I remembered it here. It
Wasn't your home.
It wasn't home. And I remember just kind of telling my dad and telling my dad, and I remember just crying, and he was like, yeah, because that's not your church. And he's like, there's a church you get saved in, and it's for a reason. That's where God called you. And I was like, okay, I'm going to come back. But my lease isn't up yet. So, you know, I'll come back when the lease is up. Like, can I move up and everything? But it was just the more, like, I didn't go, the more sadder I got, the more I didn't feel that even though I was in church, I wasn't really in church kind of thing. So
Mhm.
he was just like, I was just like, if I can move and I get a job and I just send her the money, like, can I just go? And he was like, yes, come. Like, come. So I was like, okay. And then I just came to my mama church.
Praise God.
And so you touch base here. How is your development here? I mean, was it an easy development? Did you struggle through some things? Did you find out that it was more of a struggle than it was to just live for God full-heartedly? I mean, what did you encounter as you're trying to really, stabilize yourself and plant yourself here?
At the beginning, I think, again, it was easy. But I think because of what I went through and I hadn't really dealt with it, there's always going to be times where I got, like, really, really depressed and I didn't care. Because I had a really bad mentality of I didn't care. So I didn't care if I lived. I didn't care if you lived. I didn't care if this. I didn't care about that. I could just be in bed all day and not care.
Mm.
And so there were times I'd get like that, and I think I got like that for a while. Like, I just, kind of had those ups and downs. It wasn't easy, but not because of the church or anything. It was because of me within myself. It wasn't easy, but I just knew I wasn't going to leave. Like, if I'm out in the world, it's going to be even worse. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather be in the church, try to get that help than leave.
And so now, fast forward a little bit, Here you are now. You're married. You have a little baby Posey.
Yes, I need a baby.
Yeah.
You have a husband, and where do you feel you're at now in your in life, in your spirituality, and just in general? How do you feel now? Where are you at?
I feel, I mean, I don't want to say feel, but I know it's a lot better. I remember one of my struggles too was fornication, and I was just like praying, God, like, just bring me a husband, man. Like, if you bring me a husband, like, I felt like everything was bad, and it wasn't. Like, I just felt it because I think there's still that part that wanted to be young, but I knew, like, I don't need to be young. Like, even when I was in the world trying to be young, I didn't even do anything. I was like, so, like, I knew my thing was fornication, so I was like, just bring me a husband, and all this other stuff that I felt was tumbling and was bad, like, it'd go away because I'd have my husband and I'd have a leader, you know. And so I just prayed for that, and I had my husband, and then after that I felt like me and, like, spiritually was a lot better. Okay. And so obviously marriage is, marriage.
Hey, marriage is tough sometimes.
It's tough. It's not easy. But
it's not easy. But so, look, and somebody, and so, we're going to draw this to a close. How are we at in time, Daniel? Okay.
That's inspiring.
What would you, I mean, and I'm meant to ask you this, how old are you now?
22.
22. Okay, so you're young.
Youngster.
You're young. Your husband is, how old is your husband?
23.
23. Y'all are a young couple. You have a baby. You have your own house. You have your car. Your husband has a good job, and y'all are in the discipleship mode. Would you have ever foreseen this?
Never. Especially not this young, no. It's something I've always wanted, but I didn't ever think that it was achievable.
Why would you have thought it wasn't achievable? Like, what do you think was your mental processes that wasn't achievable?
Just because I guess I didn't believe in myself, and I didn't think I could, and especially I don't really have confidence in myself. I believe everything I do have is because of
maybe
God.
because it's like you're just used to bad all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like if it wasn't bad, then it wasn't good, Like, I was so used to bad that I needed to live in it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and let me just tell my viewers, in which you're going to hear Jesse's testimony. Where's Jesse? Oh, there he is. You hear Jesse's testimony here soon, and, they've come a long way. I mean, I'm talking about, I've pastored these young kids since they were teenagers. I've had a part in their life, and they've come a long way, and to see where they're at today is like, whoa, like praise God. God is a powerful working God. But what would you say, Mari, to if you can capsulize your entire life, including Jesus, the church, what God has done in your life, your marriage, your baby, where you're at now, if there was one thing that you could encourage another young lady like you, what would you say to them if that one thing meant everything? What would you say to a young lady that finds herself at the beginning stages of where you found yourself before?
There's somebody out there. They might be watching.
Yeah. I would just say that there is hope. There is a God. Like, He rescued me even though I had no idea who He was, even though I didn't deserve it, and He was there for me, and He was watching out. And although to me, I mean, obviously it wasn't the best, but I mean, He saved me, and now He's going to use that to reach other people.
Yep.
And it's a testimony, and obviously it's not something I wanted, but I'm kind of grateful because now I can tell people, like, God is real. And
Amen.
now I can help you see God.
Powerful testimony.
And the reality of it too is that one of the things that we're not shy to mention about is that it's not easy. You know what I mean? Anybody that's on this podcast that that you can talk to through all the greatness that God has done, the miracles and the blessings of God's involvement, providence, provision. One of the things that we can honestly say, it's not easy. Everything that Jesse and Mari have today, they had to fight for it. and I mean it. They had to fight for it, and so nothing is given to you. Nothing is just handed to you, and to see where they're at today is, yes, God gets the glory, but these people had to fight some pretty crazy fights to overcome and be where they're at today, because where they're at today wasn't where they were years ago, and I mean I was there.
Yeah.
I was there, and so God gets the glory for that. And is there anything else that you would like to add, Miss Mari? Anything else you would like to say that maybe we missed, or something that you feel important to say?
I think we got it all.
Shout out to Baby Posey.
Yeah, Baby
You know what I'm
Posey.
saying?
What's up?
She's gonna see this one day and we'll be like, "Shut up, Posey." Yeah. and so okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to conclude this episode here. And thank you, Mari, for sharing your testimony and taking time.
So much.
If you're out there, you hear the podcast, you see it, you hear the testimonies.
Yes.
Share it with someone. Let somebody know. Drop us a like. Drop a comment. Favorite, whatever. Subscribe.
Ring the bell.
Let someone know that there is hope. Send these videos to somebody.
Yes.
They're real. They're raw. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to hear some of the stuff that is said through things that people went through. But that's real life, man. Yeah. And you cannot deny real life, because you know what, real life is strife, man. And God gets the glory through this, and so benefit. Someone that needs help, refer them to us. The Potter's House Christian Church of the Greater Randolph area here in Universal City, Texas. You have our information, our email, our phone numbers. You reach out to us because we can help these people.
Yes.
You want to join in our vision, you can give to the Choosing Hope Foundation, be a sponsor, because all these things help do what we do for these people along with the church. And so we're going to go ahead and just check out here. I'm your host, Luis Perez, a.k.a. Huicho Breach. And if you know the Demon Killer, and my co-host,
Casey Case, your favorite Tennessee representative.
Casey Case.
Signing off.
Yep, and we'll catch you on the next one. Check ya.